Welcome to the Phoenix Podcast, hosted by Marta Miner, with guests who have walked through fire and emerged stronger than ever. Let their stories light up your way.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Phoenix Podcast. Ushi and Marta here, and I always say, Marta, I think about people listening all the time, even when we're not live on air. When I walk, I just think about who's listening, because so much of my world has been enriched by listening to others on my walk and their wisdom. And so I'm always like, oh, who's out there listening?
Yeah.
So feeling into your presence, and thank you for being here. And today, what Marta and I were talking about, or just really sparked on this week, is something that came up in my client sessions and reminded me of what we do to ourselves in our dreams as women, in the sense of I will do that when I'm the right weight. So the specific thing that was happening is that I'm asking certain women to put themselves out there. I've also experienced this. In order to have impact, you have to put yourself out there. You have to have visibility. People have to know you exist. And yet the thing that gets in the way of most people's putting themselves out there is, I don't want to look like that on video, or, okay, I'll do the reels when I lose 10 pounds. And it really just put me in touch with how much our weight is in, maybe not even in the way, or the way we view our weight is in the way of the contribution we want to make, in the way of our dreams. And you and I both were like, oh yeah, oh yeah. I'd love to be the person that's on the other side of the client that's, oh, I've got it figured out. But
Yeah.
especially right after I had the baby, I was laughing with you that I was feeling all good pregnant and like rosy and chubby cheeks and
Yeah.
creating a human. And then as soon as that human came out, I was like, oh,
Self-judgment.
still here. Yeah. And it's still here. Like, where's it going to go? And it just turned into oh, I'm creating a human, and like love that I was shining on my own self turned into the judgment and the criticism that really probably kept it on, number one. And two, just really about like, how am I going to feel empowered as a woman to go do the things I want to do if I always think I need to have the perfect weight to do it? Like, that mentality has to shift, Ushi. And I have shifted it. I think sometimes a little mosquito creeps in because it takes practice and habitual reinforcement that you don't need to delay it. The other one I hear is, I'm wrinkly. All the things that we put in the way of our dream, be better at, be different than, and just consistently hearing the weight thing for women.
Yes, for sure. I love this topic. Good morning, everybody. Yes, Ushi and I talk about this often, and I think this topic just about any woman can relate to. We've all gone through moments in our life, whether it was after pregnancy or throughout just the journey in life, where we didn't feel good enough because of our weight or because the way we look. And I feel like motherhood really changes you. I feel like I didn't recognize my face, not only just my body, but even my face, because you're more tired, because you're more concerned on the anxiety of keeping an infant alive creeps in. And I couldn't even recognize myself. And I remember exact same thing as you were feeling. During my pregnancy, I actually created a course that I was going to share with women, the one that you know about.
Yeah.
And I was so empowered because we were creating a human, and I think the hormones contributed, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
The second I popped that baby out, I canceled all my coaches. I had multiple coaches lined up, ready for me to launch the course. I emailed them. I lost all the money for the coaching because I said, I can't do it. I can't look myself in the mirror. I don't recognize who I am. I don't know who I am. I lost my identity. I don't like the way I look. And I stopped it. I never launched the course. And I think there's so many women out there that either can identify with, either after pregnancy or whatever time in life they're going through something difficult. They didn't maybe use as much self-care or whatever happened to them, that they feel not connected to themselves. And the judgment comes in, and you feel, am I good enough to put myself out there? Will people accept me? And I think it's so sad because sometimes I just look at other people who on the outside have it all together. And I'm like, if I didn't have this worry about how I look, if I didn't have that, look how much further I would have come by now. But there's a lot of insecurity, especially in the era of TikTok and Instagram and having to be visible and up close, and people can see all your wrinkles and you see the aging and you compare yourself to when you were 10 years ago. All of that intensifies the process even, don't you think? It
Yes.
just makes it like, no, I want to hide.
Yeah, that's visibility, right? What if they see something they don't like? What
Yeah.
if they judge me for that? What if
Mhm.
what they see that they don't like is the reason they won't book my service? Or these, I call them silly right now, but when they've got a grip on my mind or people's minds, I can see that it genuinely is stopping the forward movement. And
Mhm.
it's really easy to say, "Oh, you look great, Ushi." Okay, but I don't feel great. And
Mhm.
so what is the feeling great versus the not enough? What's my list of, Ushi, I feel great when, that's
Mhm.
coming from love versus this checklist that I feel like I have to have in order to be the success that I envision,
Mm.
right? And I
Yeah.
think that's the game that's going on in my head.
Yeah.
It's we were just talking about percentages. I think I'm firing away at 90% self-love and 10% self-hate. And so I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. And then I start to look at my habits every day and I'm like, oh, you're
Mhm.
actually like 60-40, girl. And just little things like, oh, when I just this little fleeting thought, when I lose that 10 pounds, I'm gonna feel so confident on stage. Probably, I will feel good in my body, but I'm still good on stage today, and I'm still,
Um,
and when I say stage, it's because I love to speak and I love to share what I know, and that's the focus, and I've never honestly, maybe they're not telling me, but never met a woman or a man in my audiences that are like, "That 5 pounds made it so that I didn't
yeah.
listen to you." That's why it sounds
Mhm.
silly right now when you're saying it. No one's actually judging because everyone's so focused on
On
themselves, their
themselves.
fault. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not, but there's just that little voice that's like, that judgment is gonna make it so that the thing that I hope to have happen, whatever, the guy calls me back,
Mhm.
the da da da, whatever's on your mind that you think that external judgment is there. And I could even say, Marta, if somebody said that to you, I would have words with them. It's so
Yeah.
easy for me to advocate for you in that situation, but to advocate for yourself and say, you're great today. Right?
Yeah.
You're great today. Yeah.
And what is that? What are we really trying to strive for? Like, when is good enough going to be enough? I don't know what that is because I've achieved a lot of times, like the look that I was really going after, right? Either through diets, weight loss, whatever. Like, I felt good in my body and I still felt not good enough in my head. So
Mhm.
sometimes we go after the diets and we think that's the answer or whatever you do to make yourself feel better on the outside. It doesn't change you speaking on stage because it comes from inner worthiness and inner confidence, right? It helps a little bit because you can choose better clothes, you can feel a little bit more confident.
Spanx. Thank you, Spanx.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
it's only a small puzzle piece. It's not the whole thing. Like I remember the biggest disappointment was a few years, like right after I had my baby, I went on like extreme weight loss journey and I lost a ton of weight. And I remember looking in the mirror, going to the mall with a friend or something, and I remember feeling empty. I'm like, okay, so I've achieved, and then what? And
Mm,
what now?
yeah.
Like I don't feel any different. I'm still the same. So something is still missing. It's not about that external visual, right? There's something inside of us that we need to always work towards, like feeling worthy, good enough to launch the program or do whatever it is you want to pursue in life, regardless of the weight or wrinkles, because they will come and go. And sometimes I wake up, I'm like, oh, I look good. And the other day, I'm like, I look 65. Like, what's going on here? And most of the time, I feel like it when we record the podcast because
Yeah.
it's early for me. And I'm like, I
Well,
don't want my face out there.
HD is so unforgiving. Yeah, there is that element too. It's so much of it is magnified. So much of your self-critique can be like when you put yourself out there. It's oh great, there that is. I would say what's interesting for me is that I find myself in this interesting, like, wanting to be back at a place where I was that weight but empty, and being now full but at that weight. Like, in other words, I crack up because I also like you do after a bad breakup, you lose, like, all your weight. But it was a good time in my life too because I was hiking, I was in nature. I didn't do any extreme diet or anything, I just was mostly moving to accomplish well, it wasn't even to accomplish, what I had the decision I made with myself is that when you feel an emotion, don't pick up the glass of wine, go for a walk. So I said, "You can have wine."
That's
I didn't
good.
yeah, I didn't I just said, "You" I've noticed in my own self-awareness that big emotions scare me. And so
Mhm.
I the way that I cope with that is not like I eat or I whatever I do to cope with that, I thought, let me just shift it. Let me just move my body. And better yet, let me go and listen to my birds and talk to my trees
Yeah.
and nature. And that I did lose the weight and I did feel physically great. So
Mhm.
that's the commitment I made. That's how I've learned to find the worthiness or to do it from a place of self-love is that
Mhm.
clearly whatever this I just don't I wanna be the weight I am when I'm making the choices that are great for me. That's cool.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that I don't know what that's gonna land on, but I'm
Mhm.
okay with that. That was what made me start putting myself out there. But I think even me being that personal brand girl,
Mhm.
it's like sometimes people are like, "Oh, it's so easy for you." And in these conversations about weight in these last 3 client sessions, we're like, "It's
Yeah.
easy because 'cause you're Ushi." I'm like, "It's not easy." Every
Mhm.
day I have to make the choice that I'm not gonna rip my appearance apart in a picture, or I'm not gonna and I can. This is why I was hired for so many years is because my critical eye knows how to do that on behalf of a client and say, "Oh, put
Mhm.
that there, do this here." But if we do it from a place of self-hate, it didn't work. But when I started to do it from a place of, "I'm gonna do this to manage this emotion. I'm gonna do this to
Mhm.
manage the anxiety," and do something that filled me up, that's when everything fell into place. It doesn't mean I don't wanna lose that extra 5 pounds
Yeah.
still, but that's how I got out of my own way around I'll do it when I'm the perfect weight, I'll do it when I have all my little baby hairs grown back, I'll do all of those silly little things that we put in
That
the way of
you
why we
back.
shouldn't be visible. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and doing it because you love yourself. Just like we talked earlier, that some people exercise because they hate their body, and then they may temporarily lose the weight, but it comes back. Now, if you do something because you love and honor your body, you want your body to be fit and you want to be able to do anything with that body on this planet, right? Run around with your kids, have energy. It's a very different approach. And it's what is your motivation for this? Is your motivation because you love yourself and you want to honor yourself and your body is your temple and you want to feed it well and you want to meditate, you want to have your walks? Is that why you're doing it? Or are you doing it because of hating who you
Mhm.
are currently? And one more thing that I realized recently, because I always feel like, okay, right now I don't look that great, but maybe by December I'll use more like facial masks, or maybe I'll go to do more appointments with my dermatologist, whatever, and then I'll be ready. And I'm thinking, okay, what are you thinking? You're only getting older. You're not getting any younger.
Yep.
You're gonna always look back at, I should have done it last year.
Oh,
I still
yeah.
have glow. Like we keep thinking sometime in the future is better. And I'm like, it only gets worse from here. How does it get? I mean, I'm not saying it has to get worse. Like I
Yeah.
can get happier, more glowy through just being more healthy. But like postponing what you're wanting to do because you think in the future it will be better, it's just like a mind trick that our mind plays on us.
Yeah, and don't like, I do this all the time where I look at pictures of myself where I didn't feel good about
Yeah.
myself, and I'm like, "God, she's hot. Like, that
Yeah.
girl is gorgeous." Oh, wait, that's the me that didn't was super critical of me in my 20s or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It no. And also that thing is like, I actually do feel more beautiful than ever, and it
Mhm.
even saying that seems like it was a little bit to get out because it doesn't seem real that I'm saying that, but I
Mhm.
do feel that, like, I feel proud of myself for
Yeah.
what I've come through and what I've done, and I think I am beautiful. I think nobody even knows my age mostly, and I'm proud of my age, and I'm proud of the little gray hairs that are coming through, I still cover them up. I still feel better when they're not there. But I think that the thing that was really profound for me was what you're saying, and that is maybe you're going to always be considering it in terms of your health and what you're
Mhm,
putting in your body and all those things. And maybe there's going to be places where you do compare yourself and that tool of bringing it back. But no
mhm,
more am I going to let it delay my dreams. No more am I going to let it delay the things I want in my life. And maybe that is the benefit of age,
mhm.
but I did make that decision and it did produce the results or the manifestations that I was looking for very right shortly after I made that decision of I am what I am right now. I will continue to act in health for myself,
Yeah.
but I am ready to share what I know. That's when all these invitations start coming, and that's when people are
Mhm,
like, "Oh, could you be on this? Could you do that?" And that's when the visibility did increase for me. And
mhm.
you know what? It increased in a way where I could feel comfortable in my own skin. There's of course, there's still the baby like, it's almost gone and da da da. Of course, that's on my mind. I don't wanna ever pretend like it isn't, but I do for anyone listening, knowing how much it impacts, like, the most brilliant women who have the most
Mhm.
effective solutions, who don't put we don't put ourselves out there, and then somebody who has that confidence, who doesn't even have the solution, gets all
Right.
the gigs because
Yes.
they're willing to really be that kind to themselves and that
Mhm.
forgiving. I think that could be a really cool thing in your toolkit to shift some of the things that might be stopping you from putting yourself out there so you can period, putting yourself out there, period. But it usually is related to some impact or
Yeah.
contribution, that you want to make.
100%. And like
Yeah.
I mentioned before, is working on the inner more than outer. The outer, I feel like, falls into place when the inner
Yeah.
love, self-love, and worthiness
Yeah.
comes into place. When there's exercises anybody can do and talking to yourself in the mirror and saying, I love you and I'm worthy, and doing a lot of little things to accept yourself as you are, knowing that, yeah, if I lose 5 pounds, that's great, but I love and accept myself just the way I am. And it's good enough. And it's good enough. And the older we get, the more I start thinking, we only have one life. Maybe we have 12. I don't know. I haven't been on the other side yet to know that. But as I'm assuming, the only one life is me right now in this body. There's only one. And why am I holding myself back, or any of us? Why are we holding ourselves back? Because of the exterior, like appearances, or what are people going to think? Like, we all have a mission to accomplish in this life. And the women that I admire the most are the ones that, like, a lot of times you look on stages, it's not the perfect models standing there. It's average, normal human beings that created like enough self-worthiness to be seen, to spread the message, to be in their zone of genius and share that. And that's what I am inspired by. It's not the perfect women. Yeah, we always look at them and, "Ugh, I wish this and that was part of my experience." But I'm mostly really empowered by women who I don't perceive as perfect. Either they're super overweight or whatever. And they still went and put themselves out there. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is an inspiration to me. I want that. I want to have that confidence, like this girl.
Yeah. Plus, you have a little girl, right? You have a little
Mhm.
girl. I have boys that I think are susceptible to the same kind of self-hate if you're not taught to be different with yourself or that something's wrong. Right now, my boys are really tall, and sometimes people will comment like, "What do you feed them?" Like, "Food?" Like, why is that the comment? Like, they happen to be tall. Why are you giving them a complex right now about their
Yeah.
size? And they are tall, and they eat 9 meals a day, let me just tell you. But the even the notion that there is a right way or amount of meals or all the it's such a, like, mind entanglement, and it has nothing to do with your effectiveness. It has nothing
Mhm.
I will say that it has to do with your confidence. I'm not gonna say no to that. But your effectiveness is you, and your worthiness isn't even tied to your effectiveness. So see how many things that we're tying to our worthiness and I like, again, like, it's so much easier for me to advocate for your little girl, but I was that little girl,
Mhm.
heard things and realized, "Oh, women who are like this are more successful than others. Oh, women who are like this get the husbands first." Like, it's totally untrue, first of all, But these are the things that are playing out in our brains.
Yeah,
We're kids
for sure.
about what success equals.
I think so, but I also, you know what, I think I'm observing the world and how it's changing from the time when you were a little girl and
Yes,
myself as well to what's happening right now. Because it used to be like a very typical person that, let's say, became successful or married a wealthy or good-looking guy or whatever. But now I'm watching the world and I don't see it being that anymore. I see
I
women on
agree.
stages that may have no college degrees, don't look certain way, don't really know how to speak really well. Or sometimes you meet a person who's very successful on Instagram or whatnot, and they're just a normal person in real life.
Yeah.
You would never even see anything stand out about them. And somehow they're spreading their message, they're being themselves, they're being rewarded for being who they are. Or sometimes I see a girl with some super hot guy, and I'm like, how did she land that? What the heck? What is that? I'm like, there's self-worthiness that comes, people attract what they believe about themselves, I think.
But that's what I mean. Even that judgment of how did she land that guy was put in our brains. And that's what
Yeah.
stops women is because we think that there's a perfect look to the thing we want.
Barbie and Ken, that's what we grew up. We grew up on
Yeah.
Barbie and Ken, right? Like
Yeah.
those were the
Yeah.
toys we played with.
Yeah.
So you think if you want Ken, you have to be a Barbie. And if you want this, then this is what the examples you have on TV.
Which is why I needed an Indian Barbie stat because I was like, oh, I gotta be blonde. I'm like, yeah, I used to cut my Barbie's hair off. So back then it was revolting. I do want to tell you one of the things that share with you something that really helped me in that regard is that because me and my showers and how so many good things happen in my shower. So I started to do this thing. I just started to give gratitude for all my body parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm soaping my face or my hands, I'm like acknowledging that they function. And
Mm-hmm.
I really remember that was when I had that clickety click about the worthiness of, oh yeah, wow, I can stand here and talk to women. My back is upright. Like I started to do this self acknowledgement because I couldn't touch it otherwise. It sounded like a good idea what you're saying, which is I'm enough, I'm worthy,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't connect the actual truth of it until I started to do that practice in the water with my body. And I remember distinctly this one moment. It was actually a bath where I was like, I am actually okay with who's here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I do think you're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I'm not going to say it happens all the time and I have to keep returning to that moment. And this conversation is helping
Yeah.
me to return to that moment. But again, if you're really struggling with it out there, like I call them my gratitude baths or my gratitude showers, where even like the little, oh, I can actually feel my fingertips
Yeah.
right now. You said the body is a temple, and it very much I see it the same way. I see it also as like our vessel and our instrument and the way
Mhm.
that our genius does flow through us is that body. So of
Yeah.
course it's deserving of reverence and of course it's deserving of praise. And
Yeah.
so that's what shifted. And that's what allowed me to say, "Oh, goody." Like, you
Yeah.
not only what's coming out of your mouth is gonna support people and help them, but your okayness with yourself is
Yes.
gonna naturally be the impact that you're hoping to have, and that was it was so beautiful. It was like one of those, like, breath
Mhm.
moments where it finally yeah, yeah.
What's also interesting, we talked about how as motherhood changes us and our bodies, but it also changes us in a positive way because every time there's something I don't like about myself, I remind myself what my body was capable of doing, which is producing the most amazing gift in my life. And that's my child, and that's two of your boys. And instantly, I love my body 10 times more now than I did before
Yeah.
because before you're so obsessed with your body, like everything is just like all about you, it's self-centered. Versus as a mother, I remind myself what my body was capable of doing. And then all of a sudden, who cares that this is a little floppy or that has a stretch mark or whatnot? Your body was able to do that for you. How can you not be grateful for that beautiful body, this instrument that not only produced a human, but at the same time, just what you're saying is allowing me to take that human every day to school. It's allowing me to play with the kid. It's allowing me to give her a hug. Like, this is the instrument that I should cherish. It could be, I don't know. I think because we live in America is really obsessed with looks. I did notice that when I moved from Poland, like it became very evident to me. Somebody who was born here probably doesn't see the difference, but I came from a country where back then nobody talked about my looks. I've never received one compliment in my life ever until I moved to America. And then everybody was complimenting my eyes and this and, oh, you're so beautiful. I'm like, did something change about me or what just happened? It's
Mhm.
a very different, the society here sees your beauty or your exterior first versus in Poland when I was growing up, at least back then, they saw your intellect. That was the only thing that mattered. Which school you went to and what do you, how do you represent what's inside of you, right? Like your exterior meant absolutely nothing.
Mhm.
So because we live in a culture that it does mean a lot, people that look beautiful are rewarded with getting gigs on TV and whatnot, right? So it's easy to get wrapped up in it. But you have to always go back to the inner. You're never going to be happy, no matter how much people strive for that exterior. Look at all the models and all of the people in the limelight movie stars. Are they any happier? I don't think so. I think a lot of times the pressure that they're under to continue to perform at that level and be that beautiful, it just crumbles them.
I see both. I see people who are public, who have found that place of love for themselves, that their source of joy does come from their impact or their families or the greatness of their work, you know? But I mean, we see it all the time, people who like the drugs are there, like they crumble because they do feel like they have to meet the standard. And what's remarkable to me is after my gratitude baths, after all of this, like, it still creeps in. That's why I call it the mosquito. I'm not saying it has control over me forever, but there are moments like, when I went to LA Style, I was like, "Oh, my head was all sorts of messed up," because well, ultimately, let me say this, it wasn't by the time I got there, but ahead of it and prepping for it and all the ideas I had in my head of what I needed to do to look right and look the part, and then unhooking from that and going, "Wait a minute, this is, like, actually an event that celebrates all of who you are,"
Mhm.
and I show up with that. So it's still the working and the awareness of that, like, when you say inner, it is an inner game because it's your inner voice, and then is that who is that? Is that so and so being critical? Is that somebody you butt into? Or is that really how Ushi feels about herself? That I think that's the trick, because also, like, we're headed into perimenopause, so apparently we're, like, due for another 15
Excuse me.
pounds. I know. I mean, no, it's like you said, we have a choice of how we're gonna age, but there are definitely certain markers that you have to be aware of your body's going through, right? And I do think I really fundamentally believe we talk about what it means to be an empowered woman, you have a choice. You don't have to be a statistic. I never believe that. But I
Mhm.
do think you have to be aware of your environment and what's happening within you and then adjust and make choices according to your body and what it's doing. And that's why I facetiously say that now, of course, because I looked it up, I'm getting all of these like ads about how I'm doomed for 15 pounds and I'm going to stop.
Oh,
And I thought to myself, like, how come none of this is happening to me? And then I'm like, oh, don't go there. You don't create it where it's not there
mhm,
because I'm right now, I'm sleeping beautifully and these things. And but who knows what's gonna happen in 5 years? So that's what I'm sharing with you is it really mattered to me and my visibility and the things I wanted to do in the world to develop the habit so that any point where something might be like, "You're not skinny
mhm.
enough, you're not this," that I knew how to unravel it. It's not because I hear that so much, "Oh, I woke up one day and I loved my body." I'm like, "That's great for you." That's not how it felt for me. It's not
No.
it's an everyday consideration
Mm,
and coming back to my truth, but knowing that there are things that like a silly little Instagram ad about perimenopause that has me going, "Wait, what? Should I wait, what?" And then remember, "No, that's an ad." Like,
yeah.
don't worry if it's not your experience. And really unhooking from the habit of not being good to myself and coming back into the habit of, "No, this is who I am now, and this is what I believe
Mhm.
about my body and about my effectiveness and presence and that nobody cares." Imagine that you're my friend and you care my weight. That's not a friend. That's not a
That's what I
it's
was just
an
gonna say. I've never, if my friend gained 60 pounds, I love her just the same as if she was skinny.
yeah,
It makes zero difference
yeah,
because your connection is not based on the looks, it's based on how we feel about each other. But
yeah,
when we put ourselves out there, we think people only will judge the exterior. And I'm like, they probably don't care. That I accept Ushi for Ushi. If you change your face completely, I would be like, where is my Ushi? Like, I'm used to the smile
Yeah.
that you have and all
Yeah.
of that. Like, people
Yeah.
gravitate towards you because they love the interior.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's why it feels so silly when you say it out loud to your friends who are like, Are you talking about my friend like that?"
Yeah.
That thing, if somebody talked to your best friend how you talk to yourself, you would.
Ooh, bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
we
No,
shouldn't.
I would never. And so that's the thing, is that the thing that this is the other one that used to frustrate me, but it's so true, that the only thing in the way of what you want is you. It's
Mhm.
the only thing. And I used to hate hearing it because I'd be like, "No, look at my journal. Look at all the things I want. I'm not in the way. All these other things are in the way." And it's no, it's you. And if you are talking negatively and bad about yourself, Ushi, then why would you expect others to want to be around you? Why would you want them to talk well of you? You're training them. So you better train them how
Mhm.
you want to be talked to. And you're chubby is not the way I want people to talk to me. And nobody has, but it's the little trickies of the mind, is that's what we believe. It's, oh my
Mhm.
God, they're gonna reject me for my weight. That's what the silliness of what it sounds like. When
Yeah.
you're in it, it feels very real. It's a very
Yeah.
real thing. But dissolving it is honest, like, it's really what's in the way of, I won't say the entire dream, but the visibility that most women seek around their dream. The thing that's in their way is wrinkly. I hear it all the time, wrinkly and overweight. This is the thing. These
Yeah.
these are the things. Brilliant, effective, incredible women with incredible stories slow themselves down because of their appearance.
Yeah, and it's a lifelong journey, and I think we've come really far, and I'm sure it will continue because as we age, different things change about us physically and whatnot. So the second you think, "I've arrived, I'm good, now I love my body," then something pops out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you're like, What? Now I have to start all over again, accept this part as well?" So it is tough, and I think when we compare ourselves to the oncoming new TikTokers, all these beautiful girls in their 20s, it doesn't make it any easier to age in this environment or to gain a couple pounds after you had a child or 20 pounds or 50 or whatever. Like you have women that pop their children and next day they're on TV looking gorgeous and then self-judgment comes right away. What am I doing wrong? Even though I exercised throughout my whole pregnancy until even the day I gave birth, I was very fit. I looked amazing. The second I popped the child, I looked like a flobby mess. I'm like, how does it change in one day? And how? That's not even possible.
I
You
know.
know?
Right. Give me those hormones back right now. Oh, give me that little glow in my cheek back, where everyone's, "Oh, your cheeks are so glowing and you look so full of life." And then you have the baby and they're like,
And you're
"Oh."
not glowing anymore. I'm like, what happens to the glow? The baby takes it all.
I know. My kids are so glowy too. And just like their dewy little skin. And that was so cute. I
Right.
remember the doctor said that to me. "I just want to let you know that babies are not that cute when they first come out because they're," and I was like, "Yes, they are. Look at me." I was so mad.
Oh my gosh. No,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's part of it. But like you would recently posted a beautiful picture of yourself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never seen you smile like this. Like it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's so like lively and different. And you said, of course, I
Yes.
was pregnant. I'm like, yes, of course. That's where we have the glow. Can we keep the glow after we have the baby?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
I think we should start a product line called the After
Keep the
Baby
glow.
Glow. Yeah, keep the glow for moms. Some moms do keep it, but I think that's where that inner awareness comes in. I've seen moms who just had a baby who just look like completely fine. And then fine is not really the adjective or whatever the qualifier, but they just look back in their body and they look, okay, I handled this. And I always connect with those women to see what their secret is, like what bottle.
What is the secret
Oh,
when they have them in
it's
their 20s?
probably, but no, because I've seen a lot of women suffer in their 20s too. But I no, it's this thing that we're talking about, that however they were able to do it, the self-love and the honoring remained intact. And
Mm-hmm.
they really, like, for me, nursing was also very difficult. I did end up nursing. My kids also ate like 30 ounces coming out of the womb. And I felt a need to keep up until this nurse was like, "Why are you trying to keep up? Like, just let your body do what it wants to do. And I had a really hard time with that wisdom. Like I did it eventually, but that was my journey, that I was really control freak Ushi was really trying to let her body do what it needed to do. And I found that the women who just seemed in their body, they did that. They were just like, I'm amazing and I'm beautiful and I have self-compassion. I know that we all have different hormones afterwards. We all have different experiences. I didn't know that in the
Mhm,
middle of it. In the middle of it, I was judging the crap out of myself.
mhm.
But over time, and really hearing women's stories is what does it for me, is that you understand the diversity of experience and you stop holding yourself to a singular goal. And I guess that's what we're really saying here, right? Is that when I started to understand that I am unique, I am my own individual, I'm going to have my own experience of what it's like to be in this body. So stop trying to fit yourself into all the other versions of visibility or right body type or what a speaker should look like. I have my own version of what a speaker should look like, and it's beautiful and focus on designing that or creating, that's when it lifted the like pressure, the postpartum pressure of being out there. But for a long time, I wanted to hide the visibility lady, the personal brand lady. And probably I did hide. I did hide, pretty intense word, but it was more like I held myself back from doing what I had the impulse to do because of that narrative in my head about not ready yet. You just had a baby, you've got extra chub, da da da.
Yeah.
And now it's been 3 years since I had Nico, and now I can feel myself coming back online because of that acceptance of and gratitude for my body that really is like 8 months in, that I can see, "Oh, this was in your head. This is a you and
Yeah.
you thing." Yeah.
100%. And I hope that our vulnerabilities are helping somebody stop judging themselves and put
Yes.
themselves out there, because we don't necessarily want to be sharing all of the deepest secrets that we
Yeah.
have. But we're having these conversations because we want people to feel like they're not alone,
Yeah.
and that if you have something in you, which all of us do, all of us have a mission to fulfill, every
Yeah.
single one of us. And a lot of times we hold ourselves back because of the thoughts that we have. Turn down the dial on the thoughts and stop worrying about what you look like. Just start working on self-worth and loving who you are, because life is short and we never know how much time we have. So we just have to keep moving forward and not judge constantly every single minute of what you look like.
Yeah. This is your time.
Mhm.
And if you talk about my friend like that, I'm gonna be mad at you. So I'm telling you who's being mean to yourself right now and you're listening, stop it.
That's
Yeah, stop talking about my friend like that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we all need to be more kind towards each other, and
Yeah.
that's what we're here to open up the conversation, and we're curious what you guys think, and I'm sure there's a lot of moms that can share the feelings that we've had after babies, but we're curious to also hear from you guys and see how it's impacted you to have a child, or even different situations in life like aging, or maybe you've never felt good in your body. I've struggled with it since I was a child. I was an obese child, and those thoughts have always been with me. It didn't matter the exterior. That's the part, is that because I was obese as a very young child, those thoughts implanted very early on. And then I became really beautiful, and people would meet me at Walmart and want me to be a model and move me to New York and all that didn't matter, because inside I was a chubby kid. Since I was
Mm.
6 years old, I think I've been obese. I haven't been obese. I was obese back then. And then at 15, I realized like, oh, I think I'm bigger than other kids. Let me just go on some diet. And then I stopped. But inside in my head, I'm that little girl that was overweight, and kids were mean to me. And that's the thing, is I've carried that my entire life, regardless of what I look like on the outside, it's there. So
Yeah.
at some point you have to accept you, for the gifts that you bring to the world, for your love that you spread in this world for other things and not just your outside appearance.
Yeah. And also no one's thinking about it like that. That's what's I cannot. I don't I feel like I used to do this little exercise with my dad and he was so sweet. And if you knew my dad, you would know that this is his like loving way. Everyone knew him like this and he'd always be like, "Show me an ugly person, Ushi."
Ah,
And then I'd be like, "I can't find one." We'd people watch together and he'd say, "Show me an ugly person." like, I can't find one. I can't either. I've been all over the world. I've never found an ugly person.
Oh.
I've found ugly attitudes. I've
Mm.
found ugly ways of acting. And
Mm.
so he would always ask me, "Do you see an ugly person in this room?" "Nope. I only see
Aw,
beautiful people." And I love that I'm bringing this up
love it.
now. Yeah, because that is the
That was
truth.
beautiful.
That is the truth. I actually I've seen definitely seen ugly attitudes, but I haven't seen an ugly person. I think we make it up. We make it up in our heads. So hopefully not hopefully, it will. This episode will uplift one of you sitting there who might be misjudging herself. And we all have our reasons for why that misjudgment came into our heads, but our hope is that you see that's what's in the way of the thing that you want most and be done with it. Be done
Yeah.
with it. And know that we're all, even if we look like, oh, we're so confident we've got it together, it's mainly because we're running the habit of being good to ourselves in our head and making it. Thank you all again for listening, and we'll see you, hear you, feel you. We'll feel you next week. And I always think, I'm like, I'm not really going to see them, but I am going to feel you next week
Yes, that's what I mean.
energetically. Yeah. And please come and share your stories at she.is.the.phoenix and connect with us there. And we look forward to feeling you sing.
Bye,
Take
everybody. Thanks
care. Take
for
care.
listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Phoenix Podcast. We appreciate your support. We would not be here without you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with your friends or family members who might benefit from it as well. And please don't forget to leave us a review. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.